What a bully! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside, decent.
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Obviously quickly finds Vincent in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Teller. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Vincent. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside.
Have a shot. Oh, what a goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Claret deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everybody and welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of this weekend's game against Spurs down at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A game that, of course, could seal Burnley's fate. The writing's been on the wall for a while, to be fair, so it's just one of them things. It won't be Spurs that relegate us, to be fair. As we said this to the Newcastle fans a couple of years ago, it will be our incompetence throughout the season. As you can see, I'm joined by Ricky, and he's from the Last Word on Spurs. You will notice him. He's been on the channel before, and we linked up earlier in the year when doing some work for Betfred. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, not bad, my friend. You well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How have you been? All good?
I've been all right, yeah. I mean, look, Spurs are Spurs.
Yeah. Well, Burnley are Burnley, mate, so we can kind of relate
exactly.
in that sense. Obviously, one's fifth and one's staring relegation in the face. But before we get started, obviously, I will ask you some questions on that. Before we get started, I just want to remind you all that, like every single pre-game show, this episode of Turfcast is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Make Green King your go-to destination for the season's final stretch. Why? Because you can wash every single televised Burnley game down with delicious food and refreshing beverages. And with 900 sports clubs dotted around the UK, the chances are you're within walking distance of your local Green King. And let's be honest, watching football is way better with friends and family. So get the squad together for every televised Premier League fixture in an atmosphere worth sharing. That includes title showdowns, the race for European qualification, and nail-biting relegation six-pointers. And please do not forget to download the Green King Sports app and enjoy exclusive competitions, discounts whenever there's a game on. Right, Ricky, sorry to start the chat this way, but what's gone wrong at Spurs? 4 defeats in a row. You've gone looking like you could potentially catch Villa because they're still in Europe and they could have been that, to now looking over your shoulder and thinking, hold on, Newcastle could catch us here. So what's gone wrong? Because you were at the very, very start. I mean, I think you said when we met up in January that you never really felt like this, but you were looking at the very start, and a lot of the noise was surrounding Spurs about how they could challenge. But obviously now it's a case of looking over your shoulder and thinking, can we even finish in the top 5?
Yeah, it's just been an absolutely crazy, end to the season, if I'm being honest with you, mate. I mean, the things with that unbelievable start, we had obviously 8 wins, 2 draws, and I think there was that unbelievable feeling around what Andrew was doing to the football club. And look, I think the weird thing is that ultimately, I think we all felt there was going to be actually at the start of the season a bit of a rocky start. But the weird thing is that seems to have completely flipped, and we're getting the rocky period come the end of the season rather than the start. And it is leaving more questions than answers at the moment. I think, look, from the whole, Spurs fans are still behind the manager, although I think there is concerns in relation to him tactically about not really learning from previous games, previous mistakes that are reoccurring on a game-by-game basis. So, look, I mean, what stands in his favour is he wants to play football the right way. And it's funny because I think in a weird, bizarre way, I mean, similar to Vincent Kompany, 2 managers that are very hell-bent on their own style and own philosophy, and ultimately don't want to deviate too far away from that, which I hate to say could ultimately be both the managers' downfalls long term to not have any kind of necessary tweak. But I remember when we spoke actually in January, and there was that conversation we had that Kompany has been a bit more has been a bit more tweaking in his philosophy. So, and just shown no signs of that today. I mean, look, his career, whether he's been shown today, doesn't really change away from what he has always done for the last 20 years. So I'll be honest, mate, it's been a long, long season. I think we are looking forward to seeing the end of it. I mean, look, we lost
Yeah,
Harry Kane
same.
on the eve of the season as well. And look, I think Spurs, if someone offered you fifth before the start of the season, given you would have lost Harry Kane and the upheaval of a new manager, a new brand of football, a new style, many would have taken fifth. But I think there is a disappointment the way in which Spurs have allowed Champions League football to get away from them now, because
Yeah.
it was in their grasp and they had an encouraging moment where they beat Aston Villa 4-0. And bizarrely, since that game, they've almost fallen off a cliff, which doesn't really make much sense.
It's kind of like the pressure's got to him slightly, maybe. But you mentioned Ange there, and I did want to ask about Ange. You said the majority of the fans are still backing him. Is that the majority of fans then, or is it just you guys on the podcast? What's the feeling on social media? Is it still the majority of fans that are backing him?
I'll tell you what, if you go on X on a match day...
Well, yeah, trust me, it's the same here.
After a defeat, I'm not sure if anyone's backing the manager on a match day after a defeat. I think logical, sensible, level-headed fans that go to the games do feel that we've got the right man in charge. But as I said, for me, I've got deep, deep concerns that we are having this situation where we've had 15 goals conceded from set pieces. And although we didn't concede against Liverpool from a set piece, we don't appear to be learning and getting better defensively, which is a worry. But look, it is only season one. The man has only had a couple of transfer windows. I think, again, really he'll be judged in terms of the summer in what he brings in. But I do worry that if he doesn't start next season well, I think he will be under pressure fairly quickly, which sounds crazy because, again, I mean, when you're going to be given a second summer transfer window, you've got to have some time to allow those players to bed in and ultimately see the fruition behind what you're buying in. So, look, I like him as a person. He embodies everything I want as the man leading my football club. But I do have reservations about the way we're playing. I think that could ultimately be his downfall long term. But he's always played this way. And to be fair, he's had doubts wherever he's gone. And he's always convinced them in year two. So, look, hopefully he can convince me over my doubts that he's the right man. But, look, I don't want him out. I don't want another change. I mean, it's crazy to think Spurs have not actually had the same manager in place for a season since 2019-18 under Maurizio Pochettino. Gone through Nuno, Conte, Mourinho. Just honestly, it's mental, to be honest with you. So the reality is, and including Antonio Conte into that as well, at some point you've got to stick with a manager and give him a chance. Look, hopefully Andy's that man.
Yeah, 100%. You need that stability. You mentioned there you had reservations about the style and potentially the brand. What are them reservations? Is it defensively?
Well, it's this high line that we're deploying that. I mean, look, it's all very well with no disrespect when we're playing maybe the likes of Burnley, don't take offence to that, mate. But I think when you're playing some of the top 3-4 teams in the league, I just don't think you can do that. I think you've got to have some element of adjustment a little bit. I'm not saying to come completely away from your principles, your philosophy, but it's got to be a little bit, I think, of, level-headed nature that, when you're coming up against some of the best teams in the league and some of the best quality players, you've got to have at least a bit of an adaptation to that. And with Spurs, there isn't really that nature of the way there is any form of adaptation. It is almost, we play this way, and if we're not good at plan A, the plan is to be better at it rather than really having a plan B or a plan C. So, yeah, I think that's where things are at the moment. I think definitely there's a definite keenness to get behind the manager, but at the same time, there are some murmurings of concern.
Yeah, I think when I look at Ange, I think he just needs to be a bit more pragmatic. Like you said, you've summed it up perfectly there. He plays the same way no matter what. Whereas you look at the top managers, they will adapt to the opposition. If for example, they go into City, they won't be as gung-ho. Is that fair to say that Ange does need to be more pragmatic?
I mean, look, it definitely is fair to say. I mean, whether he'll do it or not is another question. I don't think he will. But I think it's fair to say that in this league that to some degree, Spurs, I think, have been found out in terms of their style. And that's why I think my concern with Burnley is, which I'm sure you're going to come on to, they've still got a lot to play for. They're fighting for their Premier League survival. And ultimately, I am worried about any team that are fighting for something right now because it just feels like Spurs are literally on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because you could lose top 5 at this rate. Like I was just looking at the league table. I'll just quickly get it back up on my screen now. So you are 4 points ahead of Newcastle, and with all due respect to Burnley fans listening to this, and myself included, you've got to play Burnley and Sheffield United. So are you still confident you'll finish in the top 5, or do you think you'll slip?
I mean, I'm mentally trying to get over the fact we're not finishing in the top 4, so I've not even allowed it into my mind that we're finishing below 5th. I mean, look, to be honest with you, mate, if we can't beat, no disrespect to Burnley, who have, again, fighting for their lives, and Sheffield United are already down there. I mean, we don't deserve a top 5 finish if we can't at least beat, even no disrespect, the 2 teams that have been struggling for the most of the season at the wrong end. So, look, I think that's where I'm at. If we can't beat those teams, I don't think we deserve to finish in the top 5. So I'm hoping Spurs will do the job they need to do.
Yeah, obviously, unfortunately, you've got City in between that as well, haven't you? But like you said, if you beat us and Sheffield United, then yeah, you'll be there at the end of the season. So I suspect you potentially will be. I do want to ask you, because you've mentioned transfers. He's only had the 2 windows, of summer and January. I remember when we did meet up for Manchester for Betfred in Manchester, there was a question that was he called Ollie? The host asked us about Timo Werner, and he said, "Do you think he will get?" I think, what was it, 8, more than 8 or more than 10 goals in this half of the season? We both said yes.
Did I say yes?
Yeah, you did. I said yes. I'll happily admit that I said yes. He scored 2. He has scored 2. So that's in the Premier League, by the way. He may have scored more in.
I don't know. He hasn't. We got knocked out of both cups where he got it. That was the problem.
But yeah, like, what are your thoughts on Werner? You obviously you must be disappointed with the return, but how is he playing? Is he playing well, or is he just not fitting into this team?
You know, mate, I went on Sky on the day we signed him and said this is a low risk with potential high reward. And ever since I've said that, I just feel like, my God, my words at times. Why I put myself on national TV and say something like that? I think, look, the guy, it's mad. I mean, I think Squawk did a set of actually statistics on him, and I think he's got, bizarrely, the best distribution in the Premier League, or up in the Premier League, in terms of his deliveries into the box with regards to his distribution, but finishing. I mean, I've got to be honest and say, I've seen some absolutely horrendous finishes at my time at Tottenham. But that guy, I mean, I don't know what has happened to him. He's so low on confidence. I mean, the couple of goals that he has scored to Spurs, he's got a great finish against Aston Villa, but the other one was a tap-in against Crystal Palace where, look, I'll be honest, mate, even me and you could have missed that one. It was literally right in front of goal.
Yeah.
But I have got a real feel. I mean, I can't sit here and back Spurs to sign a forward that can't finish. I mean, it just sounds absolutely crazy. This is a club that wants to, in Andrew's opinion, and this is Andrew's opinion, not my opinion, wants to change for the league next season. It seems absolutely nonsensical to then buy a player that has not got a finish on him. But, I mean, for the price Daniel Levy has agreed in principle with RB Leipzig, which I believe is around the 15 million mark, it's unfortunately a deal that I can see Spurs doing because it is a squad option. And whilst he's not contributing from a goal-scoring perspective, he does bring you that pace that does fit Andy's system. But I'll be honest with you, I'll be massively underwhelmed if the deal does get done permanently. But if it does get done, I suppose I'll have to back the manager and back the chairman on that one. But, I mean, quality-wise, I think that will make Spurs fans really question about the ambition of this board.
Yeah, fair enough. Someone else that came in January is Radu Dragusin. I've 100% butchered that.
No, you haven't. Got on?
Was that fine? Good. How's he
it's absolutely fine. Well, listen, I think your pronunciation of his name has been as close as we've seen him on the pitch. He's not really got on the pitch, to be honest with you.
Not? Okay.
I mean, it's a bizarre one, really. Bearing in mind Spurs beat Bayern Munich to his signature, and Eric Dyer was participating in a semi-final of a Champions League. I mean, Dragusin must be thinking, why did I sign for this football club when I could have been in a Champions League semi-final participating? Because he's quite honestly not had a look in. I think he started twice since he's come to the club since January. So, look, I think he was bought for the long term, but I'm sure he'd be massively disappointed that he's not had more of a look in, given the nature that, especially in recent weeks, Spurs have been without their number one choice of a left-back, and there's no doubt that Dragusin could be deployed at centre-half, and you could move Mickey van der Ven over to left-back, which maybe Spurs will do in this game, given how horrendous Emerson Royale has been for the previous couple of games.
Yeah, interesting. We'll obviously see what happens. I just want to focus everyone's attention to the bottom of the screen, you can see the names of the YouTube members rolling across. There was quite a few people asking on the most recent live how to join. There's a link in the description. Just click that. There's also a button that just says join next to a subscribe button, which you've hopefully already pressed. But I was told that button isn't there on the app. It's just there on the web browser. So fingers crossed. Watching on the app, it's you just click on the link and you can do it that way. The link is in the description and it will be in the description for this video as well. So fingers crossed you can do it. And I'll tell you what, I'll put it in. I said I was going to tweet it, but I never did. I'll put it in the Twitter bio underneath the username and the cover photo, so you can all do it on there as well. But right, let's get back to it then, Rick. You mentioned Vincent Kompany earlier in the show. What are your thoughts on him and the way he's tried to deploy his sort of like tactics and stuff like that, and the way he's tried to play football? Obviously, it's fair to say this season hasn't gone to plan. But off the back of last season, we were all, I mean, like you just said earlier, you feel like you made a tit of yourself by going on Sky saying Werner was low risk, high reward. I think I went on the overlap, and I think 1.3 million people watched this, and I said Burnley will finish somewhere between 11th and 14th. So it's don't worry, I've done it myself. But yeah, your thoughts on Vincent Kompany and the way he's tried to do things and the way Burnley have tried to play this season so far?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always liked Vincent Kompany in terms of the brand of football he wants to play. But I think ultimately at the moment, with relation to what he's trying to do with Burnley, I just worry that he hasn't got the squad to be able to do that long term in the Premier League. And I think we had a discussion, as we said back in January, that there was a need to adapt potentially in terms of a style of play. And I think to some degree, like you said to me in January, he has adapted. But I mean, the question is around, again, the quality of player that he's got available to him. And we know the Premier League has got a calibre of players where ultimately you've got to give your absolute maximum every single week and perform and hope you've got enough to be able to outsmart another team. And look, I think there's no doubt about it. Vincent Kompany will definitely still have suitors because, again, he's stuck to his principles, he's stuck to his philosophy. And at Burnley, it is a long-term project. It isn't a short-term project, which, again, I think is why I'm sure you'll tell me from your end there'll be no murmurings about wanting him out this summer. There'll be a case.
You'd be surprised.
Really?
The club don't want him out, but there are some fans that do want him out. I personally think I don't see the point in sacking him now. I personally think that we should at least give him till halfway through next season. But yeah, there are some murmurings. But again, as you said earlier, it's people on social media, and I do think the majority of fans want him to stay. If I'm honest.
I mean, on that thing, then, would you think, in your way, would people would have really gone back to and preferred like a Sean Dyche type of pragmatism for the last half of the season?
It's interesting. I'd probably not, no, for the majority of fans again, but I think a certain type of fan would. There was one shout about it was more than 6 weeks ago now, about 2 or 3 months ago, there was this only one fan, admittedly, on Twitter was suggesting that we should get Gary Rowett in for the rest of the season. I was like, what are you on about?
It's just taking Birmingham down, isn't he?
Exactly. Pretty much, yeah. They've had 3 or 4 managers this year, I think, to be fair. But, it's interesting. But yeah, it would be silly to get rid of him now, and it'd be even sillier, in my opinion, to get somebody again like Dyche when we've built a squad that's meant to play in a certain way. They might not have done it successfully this season, but if you bring Dyche in with this squad of players, nothing will change. It'll be, if not worse.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, the squad is built to some degree in the style of Vincent Kompany. The argument is, unfortunately, that the calibre of players they've got is unfortunately at the moment looking like not good enough for the level. I mean, that's not his own fault. I mean, that is just unfortunately what he's got to work with in terms of the funds available to him. But I think, again, you've got to admire the fact that he came in there and had to whip up a previous manager's philosophy and implement his own. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they finish the season. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, look, I think credit to Kompany. I think I said this to you before. I'm sure in his mind, with no disrespect to Burnley, who are, in my opinion, a Premier League football club, and they have been, if you look at their status over the last however many years, they've been in the Premier League more than they haven't been. I think his aspirations are that if he continues to play the way he's playing, he will get looked at by other clubs. But there's no doubt about it. He's nowhere near in terms of the level that he was last season in terms of maybe those suitors. Because again, Spurs were looking at him last summer. Chelsea were looking at him last summer. I think it's a different level now. I think if there's attraction from other clubs, it may be around the bottom half of the Premier League rather than where it was the top half of the Premier League, the top 6, for example.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for me, and I think I speak for the majority of Burnley fans. Not all, there are some people that do listen to this, do sometimes give me a bit of grief when I say this. But let's keep him for next season. He's already shown that he can do it in the Championship. We got everything right in the Championship the last time we were there, so fingers crossed we can do it again. Right, looking towards the game then, mate. We'll focus on the game a little bit more now. Two teams that can't really defend, but two teams that play in a certain style. So in my opinion, it's probably going to be a little bit open. Maybe both teams to score, something like that kind of game.
100%. Burnley will definitely score. 1,000,000,000% Burnley will score. I think if I'm going for a prediction, I'm going to say 3-1 Spurs, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Spurs are on their worst run for 20 years, 4 straight defeats. They're averaging a conceding goal 1.9 per game. So yeah, I think I'll go 3-1 Spurs, but I'll be honest with you, mate. I mean, it could be anything. I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if Burnley come and get a point. It might not be enough in terms of for you for the rest of the season. But I do see definitely Burnley scoring in the game, yeah. And again, what concerns me is Burnley are coming into the game and have got something to fight for. With Tottenham, it just feels like at the moment we're on the beach, quite literally.
You do need that one more win though, don't you? So I think you'll be looking to get it sooner rather than later. So you might be fired up for that. Is there any injuries or suspensions or big players missing that we need to know about?
Not really, no. I mean, look, Timo Werner out for the season, as is Manor Solomon as things stand. There are some doubts at the moment with relation to some of the players, but as you can see from the background here, the chaos in my household, to be honest with you, mate, we'll know more from Ange on Friday in his pre-match presser. But I mean, Spurs very much keep guarded when it comes to injuries close to their chest, so we'll hear more definitely in Ange's pre-match presser.
Yeah, to be fair, Kompany has them on Thursdays, so I just presume most teams did, to be fair. So, fair enough. If we wait until Friday for that one, then, fingers crossed. How are you expecting Spurs to line up then? I mean, you've already mentioned that they have a style of play and you're expecting them to play in that style of play again. But how are you expecting them to line up then?
Yeah, I think team-wise, we're probably looking at Vicario in goal and then a back four of what will be, I'm led to believe, Pedro Porro, Mickey van der Ven / Radu Dragusin alongside Romero. And then hopefully, like I say, they're going to have to make a decision what they're going to do with either Mickey van der Ven or Dragusin on the left-hand side. I can't see him playing Emerson Royale again after this horrendous run of form that he's on. Midfield-wise, I expect to hopefully see Pat Matassar, James Maddison restored to the starting lineup alongside potentially Yves Bissouma. And then you've got the front three of, I believe, Heung-min Son, Brennan Johnson, and Dejan Kulusevski leading the line for Tottenham.
Yeah, James Maddison fills me with a bit of dread after the
don't worry,
game.
He's been so off form since those first 10 games of the season. Yeah, hasn't been the same player. I think he might be carrying an injury at the moment. Yeah, I think he might be carrying an injury at the moment. I think, like I say, we've got so many off-form players at the moment. I think that is the big concern at the moment, that Spurs aren't playing like the Spurs we saw in the opening 10 games when we spoke and obviously met in January. So I think, again, it's going to be I think for Burnley, this is the perfect game you'd want as an away game. Spurs are not in great form. It's their worst form for 20 years, I keep on saying. They're conceding goals for fun. They're struggling from set pieces. I think for any team now, Spurs is the team that you want to play, whether you're home or away, given our form at the moment.
Is it a good time to... Well, obviously, I think I know the answer to this based on what you just said, but my thought process behind this is we could be going into this with Spurs as like a wounded animal with something to prove, but I think you're thinking it's a good time for us to play. Yeah.
We've had 4 defeats in a row and no sign of reaction.
Against good teams, though. You've not played anyone rubbish in that. I'm not saying we're rubbish, by the way, to the Burnley fans listening to this.
I mean, again, listen, I'm probably coming across really negative at the moment with Tottenham. It's because, again, I'm seeing things that I don't like, and the manager's already come out and said we need to have changes this summer, and not everybody is all in. So that tells you where he's at, that he's come out and purposely said they're not all in. So I think that tells you in itself the squad's not in a great place right now. Players want out, and I think, again, when you've got those scenarios where not everyone's bought in, this is why you're sometimes getting the nature of the results you are, because not everybody is fully committed to the project.
Yeah, interesting. Right. Well, I know you've already given your prediction, but we'll do it again at the end of the show. We will start wrapping up now, but before I do, I just quickly need to say that today's edition of Turfcast has been proudly supported by Uphold, Burnley's sleeve sponsor for the 23-24 season. Uphold is unveiling something special, the limited edition Burnley FC Uphold card, which has just been launched. You can easily add funds to your card and unlock perks, whether you're spending at home or away. The card lets you spend in any currency anywhere in the world. and is accepted everywhere where MasterCard is without foreign transaction fees and offers a competitive exchange rate. For added ease and security, you can even pay with Apple or Google Play. So get your card today at www.uphog.com/BurnleyFC. Terms and conditions apply. Right, you said 3-1 to Spurs then, didn't you, mate? Is that just because, I guess, obviously, man for man, you've obviously got the better squad, but you do feel like you can be got at the back?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think defensively we're still all over the place. So that's my biggest concern at the moment. And that's why, I mean, that's my concern about conceding goals. But I just feel on the day, Spurs should have too much for Burnley in from an attacking perspective. Yeah. And look, we need to, as you said, win. We need to win the game for us to secure a top 5 finish. So if we can't beat Burnley, as I said, I mean, I don't think we're in any way deserving of a top 5 finish with the way we're playing recently.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think 2-1 for me, and I'm only going for the 1 for Burnley because our strike force has been dreadful recently. I'm only going for the 1 for Burnley because I expect the game to be open, and you've just already highlighted your frailties at the back, which we scored against Man City, Man United. Admittedly, it was a penalty, but still. So fingers crossed we can do that. And I feel like it'll be a similar game to that. Just eventually you'll turn the screw and get the win. But Ricky, we'll start to wrap it up there. What I will say is thank you for coming on the show, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, and sorry again for the introduction of my household here in the background. It's all fun and games. I'm battling Spurs, I'm battling being a dad, and I'm battling trying to save a marriage. So forgive me. It's all fun and games.
Yeah, mate, don't worry about it. My missus is in Italy at the minute, so I've got a little boy that's just over the road. Say over the road, not over the house. It is just over there. I'm pointing out. My office. I've got a spare office room, so I've got an office here, and he's over there in his switch, on his switch. And I've not heard a peep. Normally, he opens the door and asks for my phone or something like that, but not a word. Absolutely, it's rare. You've got
You've clearly got a better look down than I have at the moment. So
I just think I've had better luck for today, mate, more than anything. Sometimes you'll see dog running around because he's up at door and then dog runs in, but don't worry about it, mate. Honestly, we've all been there. But as I always say, I normally say good luck for the rest of the season, but there's 2 games left. Well, you've got 3 games left. Good luck against Man City and Sheffield United, mate. But obviously, after Saturday for the good luck, and then good luck next season. And hopefully, we won't see you next year unless we get you in the cup again. But hopefully, I'll see you the season after.
Top man. Thank you as always, mate. Always a pleasure.
Cheers, bud.